This is a repair video of a Dobidos model DB752NA bidet made by Daelim. This is a 20-year-old bidet. I took it apart about 6 years ago because it was having some water supply issues where it had a weak flow. And now here it is 6 years later and it needs it again. Making this repair video for others might be a moot point because I saw online that most bidets only last 6 to 10 years. And this one being 2 decades old, maybe no one has one anymore. But if you do, it's very easy to fix. And so I'm going to walk you through it just in case this can help somebody. If there's low flow, there might be sediment in the line going into the toilet. So the first thing you're going to want to do, if I can get this under focus, is to turn off the water supply, undo the inlet, and then put that inlet into a bucket, turn the water back on, and see if there is a good flow. If there isn't a good flow, then you should disconnect it at the T and turn the hose around and then turn it on. That should back flush any sediment out of the screen as it's forced in the other direction. Once you have a good flow, the next step is to take apart the unit and fix the inlet pump assembly. It has a solenoid and a valve, and it's all in one assembly that's easy to take out. To get this thing open, it has 6 screws. And you can take this apart while it's on the toilet. You don't even have to remove it and put it on a bench. So you have 2 screws in the back. You have a screw under each arm. And you have 2 more screws. Oh, let's see where they are. Right here and right here. So you take out all 6 screws and then we'll get on to the next step. And you can use a regular screwdriver. It's a little bit faster if you have a power screwdriver. And you just come in here. I would not reassemble it with a power screwdriver because you don't want to break anything. But it's as easy as that, and you can get out all 6 screws within about 10 seconds. The soft closing mechanism for the toilet seat is within the housing. So you have to move a pin out of the way or you're going to break the dampening device that's in the housing. So you have to open up this access port by coming in here with a screwdriver and popping off this cosmetic cover. With the cosmetic cover off, you come in here with a flathead screwdriver and you move the pin out of the way so it's now free. Now this entire cover can lift right off the unit. I switched to a tripod so I have 2 hands free. When you lift up this assembly, there's going to be 3 wiring buses you have to disconnect. One is a large one that goes between the computer and the sensor. And then there's 2 more wires in here that you'll see that connect to the heated seat. So you're going to have to remove all 3 plugs and then you can lift the whole seat off. And of course this is going to be with the unit turned off and unplugged. Okay, with the top off, you can see that this was the bus I disconnected from the control panel. Here are the 2 connectors that went to the heated seat. Here is that dampening device that you will damage if you don't take that pin out to release it from the casing when you take the cover off. I found that out the hard way 6 years ago when I first repaired this, and I had to glue it back together because I cracked the casing on it, but it's back in service. So what you're looking at here, you can see why this thing has lasted for 20 years. It has really nice construction. Look how they've potted all the circuitry and there's no corrosion after all these years. And instead of having a plastic heated tank, it's made of real metal. So it's really a beauty of an item, and that's why it's lasted 2 or 3 times longer than its competitors. Sadly, Daelim does not seem to have a presence in the US anymore. It seems like they've left the market, at least from what I'm seeing. So you're kind of on your own with this thing. And it's, considering its years of service, you kind of owe it and to yourself to try to fix it. Okay, here's the unit that I fixed 6 years ago. And you have to take this out, and you can see that it's secured underneath. You have to undo the inlet here. So you turn off your main water there, and you undo the supply. You have to undo 4 screws, here, 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 and here. You have to pull off the 120 volt supply for the solenoid. And then there's also a DC stepper motor. That's a valve that turns clockwise and counterclockwise. And that is routed up under here, and it comes up and it clicks in. Oh, let's see, where is it? So it comes across. There it is, right over here. So you're going to press this tab, pull it out, string it back out, and this whole unit will come out after you take out those 4 screws, undo that, and it'll pop right out, and this will be in your hand, and that's what you need to fix. So we're going to take this out and put it on the bench to fix it. When taking this unit out, you're going to find, since this is full of water, it's quite likely that the gravity is going to make the water come gushing out of here. So when you do disconnect this hose, which is the final thing you'll need to do to take this unit out, come in here, remove the clamp. You're going to find that because of over time, this is going to be very tight on here. So you're going to use a screwdriver to push it off. If this gets torn, there's enough here that you can cut off a little piece and then reattach it. Don't go too far, you're going to have to replace the whole line. But that's what you have right here. And then, once this line is off, if the water is coming out, you may want to direct that into the toilet so it has a place to go, or you can direct it into the bucket. Just drop it straight down and have it go into your bucket. But one way or another, expect water to come out of here as this drains itself. Is what you're going to have to do on that. Here's the entire assembly. We're going to take it apart and try to descale the whole thing. To try to orient ourselves here, this is the inlet, so this would be down. This is usually in the back of the unit as you look at it from the front. Here's your water output, there's your water input. Here's your DC stepper motor that turns on a pivot. So this is going to have to be, when you put it back together, this is going to be turned around so this is facing this way. This has a spring in here. I think this is an overpressure relief valve. And then in here there's a solenoid, and there's a plunger, and there's a steel side, which of course goes into where the windings are, and then there's a rubber side which presses against the tiny orifice in there when it's actuated. So there's going to be a black rubber side that's going to face out this way. What else do we have on this? Yeah, and then this part over here opens up, and I don't think there's anything under that. This is a pressure cap. This might be where the spring is. But let's take it all apart. I think these screws are pretty much the same, although they're using some screws with a broader head, these 4 over here. Other than this, we just need to take the whole thing apart. So let's get going on this. Now for the descaler, you can use vinegar or citric acid or any of those lime calcium descalers. I'm using some cappuccino maker descaler for heating elements, this Descaling by Ernex. But anything that you use to descale an item can be used. So let's see what else we need to take apart here. I don't think we need to actually take out the stepper motor. Let's just leave that the way it is. Let's see if we can get in here. I might need to use a right angle screwdriver for that. Let's see, maybe a tiny stubby screwdriver, or maybe a ratcheting one. Let's see in a second here. Let's get these guys out. Oops, my bad. Oops, there it is. It's under spring pressure. All right, there's your spring. All right, so what do we have here? Take out any of these. Okay, so here's this rubber diaphragm on a plastic insert. And we take this off, we should get access in here. Okay, any of these rubber O-rings, they might need a little bit of lubrication to keep them from leaking. I didn't do it 6 years ago, and they still seem fine if they're not leaking. Oh, that looks pretty dirty. Okay, we might even have to come in here with a paper clip or something and make sure that that's not clogged. Let me get something to open this up. Hold on just a second. This seems to be, of course, I could just take the stepper motor out. That would give me access, wouldn't it? All right, let's just remember the orientation of this thing. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? Let's see if this thing comes out. Oh, it does, it does. All right, uncharted territory here. Oh, and there's a circlip in there. Holds it together. Should I? Should I? I don't know, seems pretty crazy, but all right, let's do it. Come in here, it looks like with a little screwdriver, and then pull it down. Then this should pull out, and then I can get to this. So let me get a small screwdriver. For this whole project, we used a larger flathead, so we're going to use a smaller flathead, a pair of channel locks or pliers, and a Phillips head screwdriver, and your descaler. So that's about it. Not a whole lot in the way of tools, but let me get a little something to pry this out. I took the circlip off and it still didn't budge, so that probably was not a good idea. That's another good reason for making a video. It's easy to forget 6 years from now when I probably end up servicing this again. So I just used a skinny shafted screwdriver just so I can reach in there more easily than the power drill. And now we've got it apart. Okay, it looks good. So now what we're going to do is put all of these pieces in the descaler, let them soak. Then we're going to come in with a Q-tip and clean out these parts. Make sure that this one's clear. We'll go ahead and blow some air through there. And we'll just let these soak for about maybe an hour or two. I'm not going to soak the motor, obviously, and I'm not going to soak the solenoid, but I might soak the pin, which has the thing. Although it has a rubber tip, and we want to keep that supple, and the acid might hurt it. So I think since this looks pretty clean and the solenoid looks good, this part here I might go ahead and clean. But the solenoid stays out. I'm going to keep this pin out because I don't want this to get damaged, because obviously this needs to press against here to make a seal when it's actuated, and I don't want to ruin that. All right, no need to clean that. But everything else will go into the drink. Double, double, toil and trouble. Let's let that soak. Okay, here's a paper clip. Come in here. Make sure that's nice and clean. We'll run a Q-tip up around in here. Let's go ahead and check under the hood over here. Be careful not to hurt the rubber. Here we are. Pop it out of the way. Alright, we'll run the Q-tip around there. Run it in and out of here. Run it through there. That valve there. Next victim. Alright. pushed out. Okay, we have to remember the orientation when we put this back in. Let's try blowing this out, just for kicks. What have we got in here? Let's see what we got in here. Okay. That's so perfect. All right. Let's soak a little more. Then we'll rinse everything off and dry them all off. Then we'll put the whole thing back together again. Okay, let's try to get it back together. You know, if you had some kind of a ultrasonic machine, the cleaning probably would have gone a lot more thoroughly. Alright, so let's start with one side and try to work our way to the other. If you remember, this goes inside here, it's nests. I see a channel in there, so I'm going to guess that this little hole lines up with that channel, although it looks like it's open and it can go in any orientation. And you can see that these two are open, they're just little pinholes. I didn't do anything but clean them. I thought that their size might be very relevant to its proper operation. So we're just going to nest that in there. If you remember, the solenoid had this plastic sleeve in it. It's pretty dry, so let's put that in. And then we had the piston, and the electromagnet needs to act on the metal part. The rubber part is the part that should sit out like that. And you know what? It just fell in there. That reminds me there's a spring. Let's see if we can find it. Where's the spring? Not this spring. It's another spring. Alright, one moment. I gotta scare it up. Things roll away. Hooray! I found the spring. Alright, so we drop the little spring in here. Now we put the plunger in, middle side in, and that looks a little more promising. And then I think the tabs were going in the opposite direction of the inlet. They're pointing up into the unit. The filler points down out of the bottom of the unit. So we'll put these two together, like so. Yeah, that should be right. And we're going to put in 4 screws, and this time I'm going to do it by hand with a screwdriver and tighten them down in an alternate fashion, so I don't over tighten one side over the other. I want to torque them in a sequence. So just lightly tight into each one, just so it's held down flat. And we're going to do this anytime we're putting in screws. Be really careful that you don't cross thread them. So if they're not going in evenly and smoothly, you immediately back them out and make sure they're correct. So here we go. Roll these in. And now we're just going to, now that they're snug, we're just going to give it a little snug down on each one. Not a death grip, because this is just plastic that we're going into here. Just snug them all down like that, and now they're all snug. Okay, we're going to move on to the next step. Next step, we had this spring-loaded diaphragm. So we're going to put the spring in, and it should just nest into that metal cup. This doesn't look like it has a particular orientation. I think we just need to center it so it fits into that little cup up there. And if it is nicely seated, which it should be, just go straight down while I'm doing it. That should be it. And now we just press it down, hold it in place, And we should just be able to put these screws in. And we're using those 4 broad-headed screws. I don't see any reason why that should not work. Okay, here we go. All right. Again, we're not going to make them super tight at the start. I'm not going to release the pressure and put undue stress on one screw or the other. We need to get it into place first. All right, that looks pretty good. I'll just do a little alternate tightening. And the last snug down. And again, I don't want to go crazy tight. Just make sure it's even, that there's no warping. It's nice and flat. All right, let's go on to the next step. Okay, flipping this over, there's this, what looks like a little carburetor jet. We have this little cap that probably is under some pressure when there's pressure from the line, because this looks like some kind of overpressure relief valve. Make sure that the gasket is on there and that the gasket is not damaged. This one looks fine. I don't have any gasket grease, but we'll check for leaks when we're done anyway. But yeah, this thing is 20 years old, so hard to say. But there it is. It clicked in very nicely, centered, and we'll put these 2 screws on. And we'll move on to the next step. Okay, I probably should have paid better attention when I took this apart, but I believe this unit goes in here, and I think that this flat part, there is a kind of a notched part, the long notch on it, and I think it was going upright, and there's a seal on it there, and there's another seal there, and this just pressed in like that. And then I believe that this gasket sits in here to keep the whole thing from leaking. And then this goes together with this outlet on the same side as that pressure relief cap. So let's go like that. And the screws from the sides of the holes, looks like they go in from this side. So let's get this back together. Okay. Okay, again, we're going to just do a snug down here, and a final snug down here, and we are done. Okay, now there was a plastic clip and then this circlip. So let me find the plastic clip and we'll put this back together. I don't know if you can see this, but the plastic clip comes in under here, so the little pointing tab goes and clicks in right under this semicircle. I would recommend not taking the motor off because that really complicates things. So now that it's on, I can take the circlip and just slide it right into the groove there, and then we can tack the motor back on. Okay, let's resolve never to take this motor off again. Okay, the motor does go back on. There's a flat side and there's a slotted side. So we're going to take the motor, line it up, I believe with this down, it should be turned this way. Okay, so you're going to take the flat side of the shaft, which is lined up with the turquoise bottom plate, and you're going to line it up with the slotted side, put it in, and now you're going to line up the mounting screws, and it should be good to go. So let's put these screws in. Right, that should be it. Okay, so this part faces down. That's to the back of the unit. This is the front of the unit. There's your DC wiring harness. There's your outlet. There's your overpressure. And I think we've got everything turned the correct way. So let's reinstall this now and see if the descaling was effective. Reassembly is the reverse of disassembly. You're going to put this, drop this unit back in here. You're going to reattach this hose. I think I neglected to say that part on the first part. You're going to use a pair of pliers to do that. And once this is out of the way, on that disassembly, you're going to have to use a flathead screwdriver to push it off. And now that it's going back on, you press it on. And then you can reattach it. Then you're going to reconnect the cord into the bus that goes to the whole motor valve assembly. You're going to reattach the leads. These are AC leads, so it doesn't matter in which orientation you put these in. If you get them reversed, no big deal. This is going to replug into your control panel. These two are going to go back into the toilet seat. You're going to get them all nested back together. You're going to reslide that tab in to engage your seat dampening closing mechanism. You're going to put in the 6 screws, reconnect your supply line, open up the valve to allow water in. Now, when you disconnected everything, this thing, especially if you had this disconnected and you had the hose draining this, it might take a moment or two to refill this. So it might take a cycle or two to refill it before it's operational. But let's give it a test after we put it together. Okay, I put the connector on over here. The 2 connectors over here are color-coded and they have a different male-female orientation, so you can't get them mixed up. They made it so easy even a caveman can do it, which is lucky for me. So now, put the whole thing on top, and you're going to put the 6 screws in, 2 in the back, 1 under each arm, lift the seat up, and they're in the nooks and crannies on both sides. So let's put all the screws together and we'll test it out. Before I test it out, I'm going to reconnect this seat. If you remember, the seat is not anchored because we didn't want to destroy that nice little dampening thing. So here we are. This side has a little piston here that goes in, and then on this side, just put it into place. The tab has a key on it. When you start sliding this into position, it may not be quite lined up with the dampener, but you give it a little turn back and forth and there it goes. It gets locked into position, and then you use this cover, and the cover has a block here that keeps this pin from working its way out. So you just put this down here, line it up, give it a smart push, and it should click. Although this thing looks like it can give me trouble. Let's see if it's going to be harder than it looks. There it goes. Hooray! Okay, now we can test it out. Let's plug it in. Alright, let's see here. Alright, that looks promising. If the tank were not full, it would probably be flashing here, giving you a warning. Here's your water temperature and your seat temperature. Just in case the thing isn't full and it hasn't noticed that, I'm going to turn the seat temperature all the way off. Now we're going to put it to wash and see. It might take a second to fill. And what do we have? It's probably going to take a second. Hold on. Make sure I turn the water supply back on. Making a little bulky. I think I might have pinched that cable when I put this back on. Got to be careful of the routing on this thing. Hold on a second. Let me take this off, slide it back off, and make sure that when I snap this whole thing together I didn't pinch the thing. I think it was a pinched hose. Let's give it a try now. Whoops, there we go. Alright. Alright, looks good. Alright. What temperature, seat temperature, dryer function. Alright. Good for another 6 years or so. I'll do it again in 2030. Excellent. Alright. Well, I hope this video helped you. Even if you don't have a Daelim, if you have another make, you know, and yours is malfunctioning, if you have a Toto that's not in Kansas anymore, it should have similar problems with the calcification and debris and silt and stuff building up. And it's going to be somewhere in that valve assembly. So if you're not afraid to take the thing apart and give it a good cleaning, I think you can get a lot more use out of it. Now, it's unclear to me why the first 14 years of service were trouble-free and my repair lasted only 6 years. So who knows how long this new repair will last. But I have the old manual just in case you need it. So I'll just flip through the pages so you can pause these if you need to. But they really don't have a parts list, unfortunately. And I don't even know if parts are available. I looked at the website and it doesn't look very encouraging. They don't have, I did a search on this model and it doesn't even come up anymore. So they say you should drain it out. There's a drain plug midway if you're not going to use it for a while. And they say whatever you do, you should never turn it upside down. Probably certainly so if there's water in it. But it says even for storage, it says not to. And I don't know the reason for that. But It says it on the original box, and here you can see it right here. Do not turn the product upside down. That might cause the product damaged, as they have eloquently put it. So I hope this does help you, and give me any comments about how your experience is fixing your bidet. And I forget how much this thing cost when I got it, but I know they weren't giving it away. And that's another good reason to fix this. If anything, also ecologically, you don't want to put something into the landfill that can serve for many more years. So I hope this has helped you, and let me know how your project turns out.